Section 1 of Fiander's Widow. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Belinda Loveday. Fiander's Widow by M. E. Francis. Section 1 Prologue. The Bride. A man of reverend age, but stout and hale. Wordsworth. A wife's be the cheapest of hands. William Barnes. The sale was over. Livestock, implements, corn and hay, turnips and potatoes, even apples, had duly been entered to their various buyers, and now such smaller articles as milk pails, cheese tubs, cream tins, weights and scales, and other items of a dairy farmer's gear were passing under the hammer. The auction had been well attended, for it had been known beforehand that things would go cheap, and though the melancholy circumstances under which the sale took place called forth many expressions of regret and compassion, they in no way lessened the general eagerness to secure good bargains. Old Giles Stelling had always kept pace with the times, and had been among the first to adopt new appliances, and avail himself of the lights which advancing science throws even upon the avocations of the farmer. He had gone a little too fast, as his neighbours now agreed, with many doleful ahs and ayes and shakings of heads. All these grand new machines of his had helped to precipitate the catastrophe which had overtaken him, a catastrophe which was tragic indeed, for the old farmer, overcome by the prospect of impending ruin, had been carried off by an apoplectic fit even before this enforced sale of his effects. Nevertheless, though many considered these strange new-fangled reapers and binders, these unnatural-looking double ploughs, a kind of flying in the face of Providence, a few spirited individuals had made up their mind to bid for them, and one energetic purchaser had even driven 18 miles from the other side of the county to secure one particularly complicated machine. The bidding was still proceeding briskly in the great barn, when this person shouldered his way through the crowd and made a tour of inspection of the premises, previous to setting forth again on his return journey. He was a middle-sized elderly man, with bright blue eyes that looked forth kindly, if keenly, from beneath bushy, grizzled brows. The ruddy face, set off by a fringe of white beard and whisker, looked good-humoured and prosperous enough, but the somewhat stooping shoulders bore witness to the constant and arduous labour which had been Elias Fiander's lot in early life. He sauntered across the great yard, so desolate to-day, albeit crowded at the upper end nearest the barn. The suspension of the ordinary life of the place gave it an air of supreme melancholy and even loneliness. The cattle thrusting at each other in their enclosures and bellowing dismally, the sheep hurdled off in convenient lots, the very fowl penned up and squawking lamentably, for the more valuable specimens were tied together in bunches by the legs. All these dumb things seemed to have a kind of instinctive understanding that something unusual and tragic was going forward. "Poor beasts, they do make a deal o' noise," muttered Elias half aloud. "A body might think they was a-crying for their master. Well, well, 'tis an ill wind what blows nobody good, and that there turnip hoer was a wonderful bargain. It won't do him no harm as I should ha' picked it up so cheap. Nay, nay, 'twon't do him no harm where he be gone to, and I might as well ha' bought it as another." Having satisfied a passing twinge of conscience with this reflection, he stepped into the great rickyard, and stood a moment gazing from one to the other of the golden and russet stacks. "Prime stuff," he muttered to himself. "That be real old hay in the corner. And this here wheat rick, there's a goodish lot of money in that, or I'm much mistaken. Here be another, half thrashed. Ah, fine stuff. 'Tis a pity the poor old master didn't live to see the end of that job, though if the money weren't a-going into his own pocket he wouldn't have been much the better for it." He was wandering round the rick in question, gazing at it from every point, and even thrusting his hands upward into the loosened sheaves of that portion which had been unroofed and partially thrashed, when a sudden rustle close to him made him start. Lo, perched high upon the ledge of the half-demolished stack, a figure was standing knee-deep among the roughly piled sheaves, the tall and shapely figure of a young girl. She was dressed in black, and from under the wide sombre brim of her straw hat a pair of blue eyes looked down fiercely at the farmer. The face in which they were set was oval in shape, and at that moment very pale. The lips were parted, showing a gleam of white teeth. "Why, my dear," said Fiander, stepping a little further away from the stack and gazing up at her in mild astonishment, "why, whatever might you be doing up there? You did give me quite a start, I do assure you." "I'm looking at something I don't like to see," returned the girl in a choked voice, and her bosom heaved with a quick, angry sob. "Ah," said the other tentatively. Setting his hat a little further back on his head, and wrinkling up his eyes, he examined her more closely. The black dress, the wrathful, miserable face told their own tale. "I do 'low ye be somebody belonging to the old master," he continued respectfully. She sobbed again for all response. "Ah," said Fiander again, with a world of sympathy in his blue eyes, "'tis a melancholy sight for ye, sure. You're Mr. Stelling's daughter, very like." "Granddaughter," corrected the girl. "Dear heart alive, 'tis very sad for ye, miss, but I'm sure I'd never keep a standing on the stack fretting yourself so, I wouldn't truly. 'Tis a very sad business altogether, Miss Stelling, but you'll be upsetting yourself worse if you bide here." The girl stepped across the sheaves and drew near the edge of the stack. Fiander stretched out his hand to assist her down. "That's it," he remarked encouragingly. "I'm main glad to see you are so sensible and ready to take advice, Miss Stelling. Here, let me help you down." "No, thank you," she replied, "and my name isn't Stelling." Stooping and supporting herself with one hand against the edge of the ledge, she swung herself gracefully down, her hat dropping off as she did so. The face thus exposed to view proved even younger than Fiander had anticipated, and were he a more impressionable man, he might well have been startled at its beauty. Even though he had attained the respectable age of 58, and had not long buried a most faithful and hard-working helpmate, the worthy farmer was conscious of a glow of admiration. Though the girl's eyes were blue, the hair and brows were distinctly dark, and the complexion of the brunette order, a combination somewhat unusual and very striking. Her figure was, as has been said, tall and slight, yet with vigour as well as grace in every movement. She alighted on the ground as easily and as lightly as though she had been a bird. "Well done!" ejaculated Fiander. "And what might your name be if it bain't Stelling?" "My name is Goldring," she replied a little haughtily. "Rosalie Goldring. My mother was Mr. Stelling's daughter." "Well now," returned the farmer, smiling cheerfully, "Goldring, and that's a pretty name too, partickler for a maid, a token I might say. Rosalie, did you tell me, miss? I do mind a song as I used to hear when I were a boy about Rosalie the prairie flower." She had picked up her hat and stood gazing at him discontentedly. "I suppose everything is sold by this time?" she said. "My dear grandfather's mare, and the trap, and even my cocks and hens. Dear grandfather! He always used to tell me that everything in the whole place was to be mine when he died, and now they won't so much as leave me the old rooster." "Poor maid!" ejaculated Fiander, full of commiseration, and guiltily conscious of having bought that turnip hoer a bargain. "'Tis unfortunate for ye, I'm sure. Didn't your grandfather make no provision for 'ee?" "Oh, it isn't that I mind," retorted Rosalie quickly. "It's seeing everything go. Everything that I love, all the live things that I knew and used to take care of, even my churn and my cheese presses. Grandfather always used to say I was wonderful about cheese making. And the pails and pans out of my dairy, everything that I kept so nice and took such pride in, they'll all go to strangers now, all scattered about, one here, one there, and to-morrow they'll be selling the things out of the house. If they leave me the clothes I stand up in, that'll be all." She sobbed so pitifully and looked so forlorn that Fiander's heart was positively wrung. "My word!" he ejaculated. "I do 'low it's hard. 'Tis that. 'Tis cruel hard. What was ye thinking of doing, my dear? You'll have some relations, most like, 'll be glad to take ye in." "I haven't a relation in the world," returned Rosalie with another sob. "I had nobody but grandfather. If I had," she added quickly, "I don't know that I should have gone to them. I don't like to be beholden to anybody. I'll earn my own bread, though I don't know how I shall do it. Grandfather could never bear the notion of my going to service." "Ah, and couldn't he?" returned Fiander, deeply interested. "No, indeed. Of course, when he was alive, we never thought of things coming to this pass. He always told me I should be mistress here when he was gone, and that I should be well off. Dear grandfer, he grudged me nothing." "Such a good education as he gid you too," observed Elias commiseratingly. "Oh yes, I was at boarding school for 3 years. I can play the piano and work the crewel work, and I learnt French." "Dear heart alive!" groaned Fiander, "and now you be a thrown upon the world. But I was meaning another kind of education, cheese making and dairy work and that. You was saying you was a good hand at such like." While he spoke he eyed her sharply and listened eagerly for the response. "Yes, yes," agreed Rosalie, "I can do all that. We made all kinds of cheeses every day in the winter, Ramil and Haskim and Blue Vinny and all. Yes, I was kept busy. My butter always took top price in the market, and then there were the accounts to make up of an evening. My life wasn't all play, I can tell you, but I was very happy." "My missus," remarked Fiander, following out his own train of thoughts, "that's the second one. I buried her a year come Michaelmas. She was a wonderful hand at the Haskin cheeses. A very stirring body she was. I do miss her dreadful. And these here dairy women, as you hire, they be terrible folk for waste, terrible. I reckon I'll be a lot out of pocket this year." "We all have our troubles, you see," said Rosalie, with tears still hanging on her black lashes. "Well, I thank you for your kind words, sir. They seem to have done me good. I think I'll go in now. I don't want to meet any of the folk." "Bide a bit, my dear," said the farmer, "bide a bit. I've summat to ax ye. You bain't thinking of going to service, you say, and you don't rightly know where to look for a home." Rosalie stared at him. He was laughing in a confused, awkward way, and his face was growing redder and redder. Before she could answer, he went on, "There's your name now. It be a pretty un. I do know it 'ud seem almost a pity to change it, and yet if you was to lose the name, you might get the thing." "I don't understand you, sir," cried she, growing red in her turn. "Why, gold ring, you know. 'Tis a token, as I said just now. If you was to get married, you wouldn't be a gold ring no more, and yet you'd be getting a gold ring, d'ye see, a wedding ring." "Oh," said Rosalie distantly. "If I might make so bold as to ax, have you been a keeping company with any young man, miss?" "No," she returned, "I don't care for young men." "Well done!" cried Fiander excitedly. "Well done, my dear. That shows your spirit. Come, what would you say to an old one?" His blue eyes were nearly jumping out of his head. His honest face was all puckered into smiles. "Come," he cried, "'tis an offer. Here be I, an old one, yet not so very old neither, and uncommon tough. I wants a missus terrible bad. I've a been on the look-out for one this half year, but I didn't expect to take up with a leading article like you. Well, and ye be looking for a home, and ye bain't a keeping company with nobody. I'd make ye so comfortable as ever I could. I'd not grudge you nothing, no more than your grandfather. I've worked hard all my life, and I've got together a nice bit of money and bought my farm. There's 70 head of milch cows on it now, not to speak of young beasts and pigs and that. You might be missus there and make so many cheeses as ever you pleased. How old might you be, my maid?" "18," returned Rosalie tremulously. She had been gazing at him with large startled eyes, but had made no attempt to interrupt him. "18! Well, and I'm 58. There's 40 years atween us, but Lord, what's 40 years? I can mind when I were 18 year of age, the same as if it were yesterday, and I can mind as I did think myself as old and as wise as I be now. Come, my dear, what's 40 year? I'm hale and hearty, and I'd be so good to you as ever I could, and you be lonesome and desolate, thrown upon the world, as I say. Come, let's make it up together comfortably. Say the word, and you can snap your fingers at anyone who interferes with you. My place is just so big as this. Bigger. Well, now, is it a bargain?" "I think it is," murmured Rosalie. I don't know what else to do, and I think you look kind." Late on that same evening, Mr. Fiander reached home, and after attending to his horse and casting a cursory glance round to ascertain that nothing had gone wrong in his absence, he betook himself across the fields to the house of his next neighbour and great crony, Isaac Sharp. He found his friend seated in the armchair by the chimney-corner. Isaac, being a bachelor man, paid small heed to the refinements which were recently beginning to be in vogue among his class, and habitually sat in the kitchen. The old woman who acted as housekeeper to him had gone home, and he was alone in the wide flagged room, which looked cheerful enough just now, lit up as it was by the wood fire, which danced gaily on the yellow walls and threw gigantic shadows of the hams and flitches suspended from the great oaken beams on the ceiling. He was just in the act of shaking out the ashes from his pipe, previous to retiring for the night, when Elias entered and greeted him with no small astonishment. "Be it you, 'Lias? I was just a-going to lock up and go to roost." Elias creaked noisily across the great kitchen, and standing opposite Sharp in the chimney corner, looked down at him for a moment without speaking. The other tapped his pipe on the iron hob nearest him, and continued to gaze interrogatively at the newcomer. He was about the same age as Fiander, but looked younger, his burly form being straight, and his sunburnt face more lightly touched by the hand of time. Hair, beard, and whiskers, alike abundant, were of a uniform pepper and salt, there being more pepper than salt in the mixture. When he smiled, he displayed a set of teeth in no less excellent preservation. As Elias continued to gaze down at him with an odd sheepish expression, and without speaking, he himself took the initiative. "You called round to tell me about the sale, I suppose? Well, I take it very kind of you, Elias, though I wasn't for your going after that new-fangled machine. I do know you'll have give a big price for it." His tone had a tinge of severity, and it was noticeable throughout that his attitude towards Fiander was somewhat dictatorial, though in truth Fiander was the older as well as the richer man. Nay now," the latter returned quickly. "You be wrong for once, Isaac. 'Tis a wonderful bargain. Things was going uncommon cheap. There was hurdles to be picked up for next to nothing. I was a-thinking of you, Isaac, and a-wishing you'd come with me. Yes, hurdles was going wonderful cheap. They'd a-come in handy for your sheep." Isaac grunted. Since he had not thought fit to accompany his friend, he was rather annoyed at being told of the bargains he had missed. "It was a long way to travel," he remarked. "Did you have to go into Dorchester?" "Nay, I turned off by Yellowham Hill. Bamford's about 4 mile out of Dorchester, and I cut off a good bit that way." "Well, you've a-got the hoor," grunted Isaac. "Did you bid for anything else?" "No, I didn't bid for it," returned Elias with a sheepish chuckle, "but I've met with a wonderful piece of luck out yonder." He paused, slowly rubbed his hands, chuckled again, and finally bending down so that his face was on a level with Sharp's, said slowly and emphatically, "Isaac, you'll be a-hearing summat on Sunday as'll surprise ye." Isaac, who from force of habit had replaced his empty pipe in his mouth, now took it out, gaped at his interlocutor for a full half-minute, and finally said, "What be I a-going to hear on Sunday?" "Banns! My banns!" announced Fiander, triumphant, but shamefaced too. "What?" ejaculated Isaac, in a tone of immeasurable disgust. "Ye be at it again, be ye? I never did see such a man for wedlock. Why, this here'll make the third of 'em." "Come," returned Elias plaintively, "that's none of my fault. My mississes don't last, that's where 'tis. I did think the last un had done my time, but she goes and drops off just at our busiest season. If I be so much a marrying man, 'tis because the Lord in his mysterious ways has seen fit to deal hardly wi' I. You know as well as me, don't you, Isaac, as a dairy farmer can't get on nohow without a wife?" "Ay, 'tis what I've always said," agreed Isaac. "There may be profit in dairy farming, but there's a deal o' risk. What with cows dying, and being forced to toll a woman about, 'tis more bother nor it's worth. Why didn't you do same as me, and keep sheep and grow roots? Ah, what with roots and what with corn, a man can get on as well that way as your way, and there's less risk." "Well, I've a-been brought up to it, you see, Isaac, that's it. My father was a dairyman before me, in a less way to be sure. It were a struggle for him, I tell ye. He did have to pay £13 for every cow he rented off old Meatyard, what was master then. £13! Think o' that. Why, I used to hear him say as pounds and pounds went through his hands before he could count as he'd made a penny." "Ah," remarked Mr. Sharp, with the placid interest of one who hears an oft-told tale, "but then pastures and house rent and all were counted in that. Your father paid no rent for 'em, did he? And Meatyard found him in cows, and kept him in hay and oil cake and that." "Yes," agreed Elias unwillingly, for the enumeration of these extenuating circumstances detracted from the picturesque aspect of the case. "Oh yes, he did that, but my father, he always said it were a poor way to make a living. 'Save up, Lias, my boy,' he always used to say to I, 'save up and buy a bit of land for yourself.' So I scraped and scrimped and laid by, and my first missus, she were a very thrifty body she were. She put her shoulder to the wheel too, and when old Meatyard died we bought the farm, and things did prosper with us very well since, till my last poor wife died, then all did go wrong with as I say, if I do seem more set on matrimony than other folks, 'tis because the Lord ha' marked I out for it. Now you, Isaac, never was called that way, seemingly." "Nay," agreed Isaac, "I never were a called that way. I never could do with women folk about. I seed too much of 'em when I were a young un. Lord, what a cat and dog life my poor father and mother did lead, to be sure. He liked to drop a drink, my father did, and when he'd had a glass too much, I've seen my mother pull the hair out of his head by handfuls. Ah, that I have. But father, he'd never complain. Soon as she'd lead go of him, he'd stoop down and pick up all the hair as she'd pulled out of his head. He'd put it in a box. Ah, many's the times he've showed it to me arter him and her had a falling out, and he'd say to me, 'Never you go for to get married, my boy,' and I'd say, 'Nay, father,' and I've kept my word. Your poor sister kept house for you a good bit, though, didn't she, after she lost her husband? And you were uncommon fond of the boy." "Yes, it be different with a sister, particularly one as knows she ha' got no right to be there. She were a very quiet body, poor Eliza were. I were quite sorry when she and the little chap shifted to Dorchester, but she thought she'd do better in business." "Well, but you were a good friend to she," remarked Elias, "both to she and her boy. You paid his passage to 'Merica arter she died, poor thing, didn't you?" "Ah, I did pay his passage to 'Merica, and I did give him a bit of money in hand to start with out there. Well, you ha'n't told me the name of your new missus." "Rosalie Goldring is her name," returned Elias, lowering his voice confidentially. "Rosalie Goldring. Nice name, bain't it? Soon as I heard her name I took it for a kind of token." "Ah, there be a good many Goldrings Dorchester side," remarked Isaac. "Was that what took you off so far away? You been a courting and never dropped a hint of it?" "Nay, now, I never so much as set eyes on her till this very day. But being so bad off for a wife, and so put about with all the waste as is going on at my place, I thought I'd make sure of her, so I axed her, and she were glad enough to take me. She's Giles Stelling's granddaughter, d'ye see, and she has to turn out now." "Old Stelling's granddaughter," repeated Isaac, with emphasis. "Granddaughter! He must have been a terrible old man." "I do 'low he were. Old enough," replied Elias hastily. "Well, now I told you the news, Isaac, I think I might as well take myself home again. My head be all in a whirl with so much travelling and one thing and another. Good night to you, Isaac. You must be sure to come over and see the new turnip hoer to-morrow." A little more than 3 weeks later Fiander brought home his bride, and Isaac Sharp cleaned himself and strolled up in the evening to congratulate the couple. Elias admitted him, his face wreathed with smiles and his whole person smartened up and rejuvenated. "Come in, Isaac, come in. The wife's gone upstairs to get ready for supper, but she'll be down in a minute." "I give you joy," said Sharp gruffly. "Thank'ee, Isaac, thank'ee. Come in and take a chair. You may fill your pipe too. She doesn't object to a pipe." "Who doesn't object to a pipe?" said Isaac, staring, with a great hand on each knee. "Why, Mrs. Fiander doesn't. Oh, Isaac, I be a favoured so. I told you the Almighty had marked me out for wedlock. Well, I can truly say that this here missus promises to be the best of the three. Wait till you see her, and you'll think I'm in luck." Isaac gazed at him with a kind of stolid compassion, shook his head, deliberately filled his pipe, and fell to smoking. Elias did the same, and after he had puffed for a moment or two, broke silence. "Ah, you'll find her most agreeable. I did mention to her that you be used to drop in of a Sunday, and she did make no objections at all." "Didn't she?" returned Isaac. "Come, that's a good thing." He paused for a moment, the veins in his forehead swelling. "I don't know if she had made objections I shouldn't have come all the same," he continued presently. "I've a come here Sunday arter Sunday for 20 years or more. It wouldn't seem very natural to stop away now." "Nay, sure," agreed Fiander nervously. "'Twouldn't seem at all natural." The sound of a light foot was now heard crossing the room overhead and descending the stairs. "That be her," remarked Elias excitedly. The door opened and a tall, well-formed figure stood outlined against the background of firelit kitchen. It was almost dusk in the parlour where the two men sat. "Why, you're all in the dark here," observed a cheerful voice. "Shall I light the lamp, Elias?" "Do, my dear, do. This here be Mr. Isaac Sharp, our next neighbour, as you've heard me talk on often. Isaac, here's Mrs. Fiander." Isaac wedged his pipe firmly into the corner of his mouth, and extended a large hand. According to the code of manners prevalent in that neighbourhood, it was not considered necessary to rise when you greeted a lady. "How d'ye do, mum? I give you joy," he remarked. When her hand was released, Mrs. Fiander sought and found lamp and matches, and removed the shade and chimney, always with such quick decided movements that Isaac remarked to himself approvingly that she wasn't very slack about her work. She struck a match, bending over the lamp, and suddenly the light flared up. Isaac leaned forward in his favourite attitude, a hand on either knee, and took a good look at the newcomer. Then drawing himself back and removing his pipe from his mouth, he shot an indignant glance at Fiander. "Come, that looks more cheerful," remarked the unconscious bride, "and supper will be ready in a minute. I'll go and get the cloth." As she vanished, the new-made husband bent over anxiously to his friend. "What do you think of her?" he remarked, jerking his thumb over his shoulder. "Elias," returned his friend wrathfully and reproachfully, "I didn't expect it of you. No, that I didn't, at your time of life, and arter burying two of 'em. Nay, now, I didn't think it of you. The least you might do was pick out a staid woman." "Come, come," retorted Fiander, "she's young, but that'll wear off, Isaac. She'll mend in time." "It bain't only that she be young," resumed Sharp, still severe and indignant, "but I do think, 'Lias, taking everything into consideration, that it 'ud been more natural and more decent, I might say, for you to ha' got married to somebody more suited to you. Why, man, your new missus be a regular beauty." End of section 1.